This is what 100 days of Supermarket Simulator looks like, and this is what the first day looks like. Yeah, there's a lot of work to do. So let's get started to try to make this supermarket a success. Alright, so it's the first day, and as we look around, it's pretty empty. So the first thing we gotta do is go over to our computer and buy some products, because these shelves aren't gonna fill themselves. So we end up buying pretty much one of everything, excluding the oil and the cereal, since purchasing everything would go over our $50 budget. And with literally the fastest delivery service I've ever seen, the products appear in an instant right in front of our shop, which is super convenient because now we can just take the boxes from the front and put them onto our shelves right away. And after setting all the prices, we can finally open up our supermarket and declare it open for business. And not even 30 minutes into the day, we get our very first customer, with her purchasing one of the pastas and sugar, which yes, was only $8 altogether, but hey, we'll take what we can get. Overall, the first day was actually really profitable, as it took only 4 hours into the day for us to get back to our initial $50 in our pocket, with us making a total of $77.28 by the end of the day, and only having to restock the pasta and bread, which I'd call a dub in my book. The only negative thing I can say, however, is that the day was pretty slow customer wise, but of course that's just because it was just the first day in a brand new business, and soon enough the business will be booming before we even know it. So after we serve our last customer and close it for the night, we count up all our earnings for the day and move on to the second day, where this time I do end up buying the cereal and oil, along with some of the other items that we need to restock, like the sugar and the flour. And at this point I did realize one thing that would become a really big hassle as the store got bigger, and that's restocking all the items on time. As right here we see the pasta is almost out and we only have it on one shelf. So if that's out and another customer comes in looking for it, we lose the sale. So I think the most stressful thing about this was being able to balance having to restock the items fast while also having to check out the customers all at the same time. Thankfully earlier on wasn't as bad, as since the store was relatively still small, I was still able to restock the items by myself in a timely manner with no real issues. But this all came to an end on day 9, as at this point my bank account was really shining, as I was able to afford to have 2 full shelves of each item on the market, which was really good because I didn't have to worry too much of certain items being short, as there's already so much on the shelves already. But the reason why I brought up day 9 in specific wasn't to show you guys the full shelves. No, I picked this day because it was a very pivotal moment in this business's history, as I managed to purchase my very first product license. And for those of you that don't know what a product license is, it essentially just allows us to buy more items from the market, basically unlocking it to attract more customers to the store. But these items in particular can't actually be stored on the shelves, as most of these new items like the cheese and the liquid items need to be stored in a fridge. And since business has been booming recently, I was able to afford one, along with every single newly available product on the market, which I might add sells for a whole of a hell lot more than the original items on the shelves. But I do think out of all these items, the 2 that stood out to me the most were the coffee dark roast and the tea black, as up to this point they were the most expensive items on the market that we had to buy for stock. But that also meant that they would sell for a lot more, as the dark roast in specific went for around $10 for each pack, whereas all the other items went for about 2 or 3. And when I tell you, the coffee dark roast did not disappoint, because that shit was flowing off the shelf, baby, as almost every single customer that came in grabbed it instantly. It was so popular, I swear I had to restock it like 3 or 4 times throughout the day. It was crazy. More like 2 times, but you get the point. It was really popular. And it being the most expensive item meant more money for the business. But with day 9 done and us calculating our negative profits for the day thanks to the license in the fridge, we move on to day 10, which was more or less the same as day 9, except I removed the 2 shelves full of cereal I once had and replaced one of them with another shelf of coffee, and also added another shelf full of the tea black as well. I think day 10 overall was the most stress inducing, as I was pretty much running around the entire time trying to restock the shelves in time before more customers enter the shop, to the point where I actually ended up running out of one of the products and only realized it after the fact. But I definitely think the addition of the fridge items and of course the coffee and tea is what was starting to garner attention towards the shop, and allowed me to add more and more to the shop so I could provide more items to the customer and potentially expand it for more space, which I did 2 days later on day 12, as after I restocked everything and opened the shop up for business, I realized that I was actually able to afford to purchase a new section for the shop, which only costed me $350, and with business on the rise, I saw this as a great investment and purchased it right then and there. And right before my very eyes, I watched as my store was completely transformed, and just like that, it was completely expanded, which just felt amazing because it felt like I had so much more more space to breathe and didn't feel so claustrophobic. But after doing that, I moved some things around and ended up buying another shelf to put up in the shop, which honestly made the shop look so much better. Except for, of course, all the boxes scattered around behind the store, but don't worry, that'll get taken care of soon enough. But the day went on as usual, with every customer coming through being 100% satisfied and the total profit being in the negatives, but that's fine since our pockets are still really full. So full, in fact, that the very next day after filling up the shelves, I purchased the third section of the shop for the small price of $750, which of course dug a giant hole into my bank account, but if I'm still able to afford product, it's all good. Still, I did also end up buying a single shelf just so that the new corner in the store didn't look like absolute shit. Yes, I know I could have waited, as for literally the rest of the day, I didn't use it whatsoever. And when I did end up using it, I just put extra product I couldn't fit on the other shelves onto it. And oh yeah, I also ended up purchasing a second checkout counter at some point and hiring my first employee, which yes, I totally forgot to add in earlier, but it happened the same day as the second renovation, so it's not like you missed much anyways. But it appears that I just love spending money, because literally the very next day, I bought my second product license, which unlocked a hell of a lot more items that I could put on my shelves in my store, which did of course give me an excuse to use the new single shelf I recently purchased, so it's not a complete waste. But as the day came to a close, I tallied up my income and I actually almost managed to make a positive profit for the day, as I was only $32 off of making back the money I spent on the product license, which to me was a huge step in the right direction, because that meant that my pricing for the shop was on point, and that even if I invested in something else in the shop, I could still make back my money in that one day. But for the next 5 days up to day 20, it was pretty normal territory. Nothing major ended up happening, as I managed to reorganize my store for it to look better, while also being able to afford to keep all the shelves full with all the new items, which was really cool. The only major thing that I did purchase, however, was on day 19, and that was the storage compartment, which went for $800 and will become very useful in time to come. I did also buy another fridge, which I didn't end up using instantly, just like the shelf incident. It was honestly more for aesthetic purposes than anything else, because I just have an obsession with things being filled in, leave me alone. But the day went on as usual, with the only thing happening was me changing the name of the store to Florist Shop, since I couldn't think of anything better. But after the completion of day 20, we get a net negative for the day and move straight on to the next 10 days of this 100-day challenge. And on the very next day, I ended up purchasing the next product license available on the market midway through the day, as it allowed me to unlock a whole lot of drink items, which for the most part were some of my most popular items throughout my entire playthrough of this game. But when I was putting these items up on display for the first time, I wouldn't set the price instantly, as I would place all the product that I could on a single shelf before setting the price. But me being an absolute idiot, didn't realize that the moment you put an item on a shelf, it's automatically up for sale. So people in the store are gonna see it and just grab as many as they can before I actually put a price on anything, which of course is exactly what happened. As when I was putting this soda in the fridge, this guy decided to grab like 3 bottles before I even had the chance of putting a price on them. So that guy straight up just got 3 soda bottles for free. Eventually, I did end up learning to put 1 unit on the shelf before pricing it right away, but I did end up making the same mistake a couple of times in the future. But honestly, it isn't that big of a deal, because what harm is giving away 3 soda bottles gonna do to my store, am I right? And also, this is where the storage compartment comes in handy, because after buying all the new items off the market, I had a lot of extra product left, and instead of keeping them in the back of the shop like I used to, I can just conveniently store them in the storage compartment. See, I told you to become useful sooner or later. But with day 21 done and dusted, we once again make a negative profit, but even with that being the case, we actually managed to get a lot of sales from the new drink items added to the store, as Zap Soda was sold out by the end of the day, which is kind of crazy being that it sold out on the first day it went on sale. Day 22 wasn't anything special other than the purchase of a new corner shelf, which was a really convenient fit for the store, even though I didn't use it for the entire day. But day 25 on the other hand was a very important day for the business, as I ended up hiring my second full-time employee in the shop, which for whatever reason I had to buy a storage rack before I could do so, but I did manage to do it. And just like that, he was on the team, as this guy was a restocker, and his whole job was to restock the shelves when needed and put whatever boxes that were outside in the store back in the storage room. But the real reason why this guy was such a game changer was because I didn't have to worry as much anymore about having to restock the shelves all on my own, as now I had a helping hand to do it for me if I got too busy with checking out customers or ordering products. Also, I wouldn't have to worry about missing out on any potential sales because of me being slow, because this guy's sole job was to restock, so he's gonna have that all taken care of, with me of course still helping here and there, so it won't be a one-person job, especially since my restocker has phasing abilities, because what the heck are you doing there, sir? But the day overall, even with the help of the restocker, was still pretty busy, with me still having the job to check out customers at the second counter, while also having to keep an eye on the stock to order everything. And I thought it'd get easier when I hired employees, but it seemed like with the addition of another employee, I actually drove for the store to have more customers, because by the end of the day, I actually almost managed to make back profit for the day, and that's after hiring the restocker and purchasing the rack as well, which was really good to see. But now that we've reached day 26, 6 and have had our cashier for us for a little while now, I think it's coming pretty close to hire one more for the business. So after restocking the shop in the morning, I went straight over to the computer and checked the hiring tab under management and realized that I was actually able to hire another cashier, but I'd have to wait until my store reached level 20 before I could do so. And that was my goal, to hire a second cashier, because I really couldn't be asked to restock and check people out all at the same time because it was way too hard to keep up with everything at once. But that doesn't mean that I did absolutely nothing until level 20, because that's not the case whatsoever. As on the very same day near the end of store hours, I just ended up buying the next section for the store for fun, because why not? And it'll just look better with it, since that little corner of the store just looked ugly in my opinion. And also I'd be able to traverse the store much easier when restocking, because everything will just be a smooth left to right without any bumps in the road. But after rearranging the store once again to fit the new space, which honestly looks so clean and spacious, we check out the last customer of the day and count our earnings, which thanks to our renovation made it a negative profit. But at least we're still near the $1,000 mark in our balance, so that's great. Day 27 went on as usual, but this is also the day where I make the most important purchase that I will ever make when playing through these 100 days. And that purchase is the tablet. Now, I know what you're wondering, man, it's just a tablet, what's the big deal? What are you gonna do? Play some iPad games on it? Well, not exactly, because along with the tablet, we also get a scanner, as this will be our new way of purchasing items from now on. As if you guys have been watching and paying attention, every time I had to order items to restock the store, I had to walk all the way to the shelves, note on everything I needed, and go all the way back to the computer behind the checkout counters and order everything there, and it's just a hassle and such an inconvenience to the workflow of the market. But now that I bought the tablet, it makes ordering and restocking so much easier, because now instead of looking at everything and trying to memorize what I need to order all the way back at the computer, I can just walk up to any one of the products that need restocking, scan the item, and in the push of a single button, the items get ordered right away and are outside the store in an instant. And let me tell you, when I got this, I was over the moon, because moving back and forth throughout the store trying to figure out what I needed to restock was such a slow and manual process. But this just made everything so much smoother and just made restocking much faster and a lot easier, because now I didn't have to worry about potentially missing out on a sale because I was slow at ordering an item at the computer. But of course, these things do come with its drawbacks, but I'll get to them when they do come up. And after ordering the items and restocking the store, I opened up the business for the day, and the day overall went pretty normal up until my restocker decided to literally stop working and complain that all the racks were full instead of just placing the boxes on the ground like I've been doing the entire time. This actually happened twice on the same day, so the very next day, the first thing I did was purchase a third storage rack so there'd be more space to put all the extra boxes we didn't need. I also ended up buying section 2 of the storage space to put more racks in, just so that sort of thing never happens again, because if the restocker stops working, that just puts me in the line of fire to do literally everything on my own with zero help. But now we reached day 30, where we right away purchased the next product license, and this time around I learned from my past mistakes and actually labeled the price tags before putting these items up for sale, so I don't give these items out for free like some idiot. But other than that, the next couple of days went on as normal, as I finally managed to figure out how to install more lights in the place, because right now when it's dark, it's pretty much pitch black on the other side of the store. So when I found out I could just purchase lights from the market and install them myself, it gave the whole place a completely different vibe. But along with the new lights, the store finally got to level 20, and you all know what that means. We can finally hire the second cashier, which is exactly what I did the very next day. And that right there is just a huge load lifted off my shoulders, because now all I have to do is focus on restocking and ordering, which does sound easy, but when I tell you, it's so much harder than it sounds, especially as the place becomes larger and larger. So it's just nice to have the checkouts fully operational without me, so I can solely focus on the product work. But after ordering all the products for the day, which did start to take a lot longer to restock than usual, we watched as the store becomes fully operational all on its own, with me only having to help the restock items, since I only have one restocker at the moment. And I don't know if this is because I hired more people or something, but for whatever reason, there's just a lot more people coming to the store than usual, as if me being my own cashier just wasn't enough for people. But hey, if it brings me more business, I'll do whatever it takes, even if that means hiring more people for absolutely no reason, because as you've all seen, I love wasting money in this game. But day 33 as a whole was really good, especially with all the extra lights, as now I can actually see what's going on in the store without having to squint my eyes 24/7. I did also start painting the store purple just to get rid of the objective on the left, which I did progressively fill up as the days went on. Day 34 goes on as normal, other than me nearly completing the paint for the rest of the store, while also coming across a random car crash while checking out the neighborhood, which actually killed me when I first came across it. It was so funny. But other than that, it was just scanning, and hold up, did you see that? Wait, look at it one more time. The scanner scanned the dark rows twice instead of just once like it was supposed to. So instead of ordering one, I ended up ordering two, with one just going into the storage. Since you guys don't know, I have a Logitech mouse, and these mice are particularly prone to a double clicking bug, where on some occasions, if you click the mouse once, it will actually input a double click quickly, which as you see here becomes a huge problem in this game, especially for the scanner, because as you unlock more and more items, and as they increase in price on the market, the more money we'll be losing and the more random stock will have. And there's actually another bug in the game where if you open up the Steam overlay while you have the scanner in hand, it'll actually add 5 of the item to the cart when you scan it. But we'll get to that when it actually happens in the game. But now that we've gotten all the excuses out of the way, let's continue on to day 35, since day 34 wasn't really eventful. Well, I can't say day 35 was eventful either. And from this point onwards, the days really are going to be pretty boring, as at this point, we're able to afford to keep the store running, being able to keep all the shelves filled, as well as pretty much making profit every day that we don't make a huge investment. So if that's the case, what's our goal then? Well, the goal as of now isn't to work to keep the store running. As with all our employees, the store pretty much runs itself, other than me ordering and restocking. But our goal is to work up to expanding the store to as big as it can be before the 100-day limit. As if you guys forgot, we're in this for another 65 days. And going over every day like we've been pretty much doing up until now would be so boring, which is why now we'll just be talking about every major change that does happen and everything leading up to it, just so that we don't get another day 34 and 35 situation again. Also, if you made it this far into the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because this video took a lot of work to get done. So if you want more stuff like this, you know what to do. But now let's get back straight into day 36. Yes, I know I just said the days were going to be uneventful, but it's just really bad timing that the very next day I ended up buying the next product license, which contained some of the most expensive items on the market to restock, as well as another shelf to put these items on, because with the amount of money these items are going to be raking in, with the most expensive item in the store being $20, the investment is definitely going to be worth it. And they did not disappoint, as on the very first day, the bleach and shampoo were flying off the shelves, with me having to restock them both during the day because they were so popular. But even though the rest of the items didn't do as well on the first day, doesn't mean they didn't increase in popularity the longer they were there, as it only took one extra day for the toilet paper and the dishwasher to gain traction, with me having to restock the toilet paper multiple times in one day, as I could really only afford to have 4 on the shelf at once, since there wasn't much space for more, as all the other items needed a seat as well. But as day 38 rolled around, I ended up hiring another restocker, which was very needed because at this point there was just so much to restock, and me and my one restocker would just take forever to restock everything in the morning. So I hired a second one to make the load a little bit lighter for the both of us. But not only did it lift a massive load off my shoulders, but also the store in general, as according to the daily statistics at the end of the day, I had 0 dissatisfied customers, meaning that every customer that walked in got exactly what they needed without any complaints whatsoever, so that's a plus. On day 40, I ended up purchasing a self-checkout counter, which did help to speed up the checkout process, but the only downside to this was that sometimes customers just didn't know how to use it, so you'd have to go over there and help them check out all their items, and depending on how many items they had, varied how long it would take to check them out, as you can't actually click on multiple items to check them out like you would in the regular checkout counter, as here you just have to hold down left click and wait for all the items to get scanned before they can leave, which is why at the very end of the next day, I hired a customer helper, which literally does all this for me, and it's probably the most helpful hire I've done so far. On day 43, I did end up purchasing some extra shelf space and a single fridge, because the very next day, I ended up buying the next product license where most of the items would go in the fridge. But when I bought the items to stock them, I didn't realize that my restockers would just carry them into the back rather than putting them on the shelves, because at this point, these items didn't need to be restocked since they were never on the shelf in the first place. So these guys just treated them as extra boxes that need to be stored back in the storage area, which they did, and made me have to manually go in the back and find the items that they stored away and shelf them on my own. I did realize later on into the run that there was an option to stop them from working in the management section of the computer, but I didn't realize that until way later. So for now, I just had to deal with this because I'm a complete moron who doesn't read things when he hires people. But day 45 was pretty much a breeze, other than me losing out on 2 hours of service because my mouse randomly decided to double click on the open sign, which started the day but was actually closed, and I only realized this when people would try to enter the store and then walk out instantly. But other than that, the day was fine. And this brings us to day 49, as I was able to finally purchase the next product license up for grabs, which was a little different as this license introduced frozen products. And of course, the only way to store frozen products was with the freezer, which I bought straight away. And if I'm being completely honest, this is where things started to get extra difficult, as the freezer products were extremely difficult to keep track of. As for one, it was really hard to gauge how much of which item I had since they were stacked on each other, but also they're at the very back of the store, so if they sell out, I'm gonna have no idea unless I check, and the likelihood of that is very low, as if you've been watching me play this game, my mind gets scattered very easily. But don't even get me started on these potato bags of chicken, because just like the toilet paper, they are very popular items, and they only come 4 in a box, which is so hard to manage because since they sell so quickly, I have to constantly be restocking them throughout the day, versus as if there were more in the box or didn't take up so much space on one shelf, I have more on display and I'd have to restock them less. Also, don't even get me started started on these restockers again. Yes, I know it's their job to restock things, but I ordered chicken, and me being an idiot, I literally set it on the floor without displaying them. And this guy just came in and took it away, which meant that I got no chicken sales for the entire day because I obviously forgot about it. And I didn't even realize it until I started ordering product for the next morning. So that really shows you how unaware I was that entire day. I did end up getting another freezer on day 50 just for the chicken, but even then I was still unaware of how popular it was at various points throughout this playthrough, as I just neglected it until the very last moment when I realized that it's been sold out without me restocking it. And oh yeah, at some point I started changing the floor design with this black design, which I thought was cool, so don't be surprised later on when the entire store looks like this, just saying. But overall, days 50 to 60 weren't that eventful, with the only major changes that happened was me renovating the store that made the pathways to the freezers literally look like some sketchy alleyway out of a movie, as well as on day 59, I managed to get this doorway to the storage unlocked by expanding it big enough to the point where the door was forced open. So now I have a really convenient way to move in and out of the storage area without actually leaving the store. But of course, with the extra storage space, there was a lot more room for racks, as in order to hire the next restocker, who I don't really need but will end up hiring regardless, I needed 13 tall racks placed in the storage area to do so. And at this moment I had 8, so I'm not too far off the 13 that I need. I just need the funds at this point. Also, I really wanted to expand the store again, because if I'm being honest, the freezer area just looks so ugly and secluded. I have no idea why anyone would even want to go back there to purchase anything from those freezers. But even though the 50s were relatively boring, the same can't be said about the 60s, because literally on the very first day of day 61, I purchased the last 3 racks I needed to hire a restocker, and as I said before, I not only had to buy them, but I had to put them up in the storage area. But when I went to place them down, I realized that I couldn't fit a single one in there, and the only way that was going to happen was if I purchased the next storage expansion from the computer, which for some reason had a really odd price tag, as it was $1,881 on the management section, and I could not afford that as it was way too much for me. And yes, I did try to rearrange the racks in order to save money, but there was absolutely no way it was fitting. So I did what I had to do, and I literally just waited one more day, and I was able to come up with the money to expand it without, of course, going completely broke. And right after I put up the 13th rack, I went straight over to the computer and hired my 3rd restocker, who did take a lot of work to get on board, but in the long run is a very valuable hire. And after day 62, if I'm gonna be completely honest, nothing much really happened, as I bought another freezer to add more chicken and filled up the floor with more tiles. Other than that, it was literally just me ordering, restocking, and repeating that process for the next 8 days. After acquiring the 3rd restocker and the extra freezer, the next goal for me was to get to the next section of the shop, so I can just get rid of that small section of the shop and make it feel bigger. And the only way to do that was to get our monies up, which is exactly what I did for the next couple of days, as on day 72 I was able to purchase the next section of the shop, which of course didn't take away the entirety of the wall like I wanted, but at least everything fit perfectly when I rearranged the furniture on the next day. But since I had more room in the store, it meant that I could potentially hire another person to the team, as on the very same day I looked at my available hires, and would you look at that, I'm able to actually hire another cashier. But I was gonna have to wait a little bit longer because I really couldn't afford another checkout counter right now, along with another employee. So for the next few days I worked without spending any money on unnecessary things, and when day 75 hit, I purchased stock for the day, and wouldn't you know, I still had enough to spend on both the counter and the hire, which I did instantly as I placed down the counter along with hiring my 3rd cashier, meaning that this place was pretty much fully functional on its own, as I had 3 of each employee, including my self-checkout helper, who to this point is still probably the most vital hire, as without him I would still have to manage that all on my own, which I would honestly rather not, so shout out to that guy. But for the next 5 days up till day 80, nothing much really happens, and by nothing much I literally mean nothing, as I literally just rinse repeat ordering and restocking product in the store. And if I'm being completely honest, the 80s also weren't as eventful either, as literally the only major thing that I purchased within the entirety of those 10 days was just the next section of the store, which took down the last wall and completely opened up the space, making it feel much bigger than it did before. But even though I did that, not much growth was done physically to the store. That doesn't mean that the store itself wasn't growing as an entity, as the customers were rolling in faster than ever, with every day becoming busier and busier, as I literally started stressing out whenever things went out of stock, as I started having unsatisfied customers, especially with the items like the chicken and the potatoes, because those items are in such limited stock, and with them being some of the most popular products in the store, they sell out super quick. So I really had to be on my A game if I was going to keep all my customers happy when they walked in. But other than it being the most busy I've been since I started the game, the 80s weren't as eventful as all the other sets of days, since at this point I was pretty much nearing the end, and I had already unlocked so much this game had to offer. So I pretty much had to breeze through and purchase as much as I could before the 100th day, because when that hits, this all comes to an end. So let's get started with the final 10 days, or the final 9 days, because literally nothing happens on day 90, so I'm gonna skip that for your guys' sake. Well, technically, things won't start to kick off until day 93, so in reality, the final week of Supermarket Simulator. Yeah, that sounds better. Alright, on day 93, I start the day off by of course purchasing all my products for the day, along with paying all my bills before right away purchasing the next product license. Because it's the final week, I gotta get as much stuff as possible. And since I was buying a bunch of new items and didn't have enough space in the fridges I already had, I had to buy a whole nother one. But here's where I realized that before I actually purchased the items and my restockers take them away and ruin everything, I actually for once in my life turned them off so they wouldn't take them in the storage area like they're supposed to. And when I ordered the items, I did a little rearranging for the new fridge, put all the items up for sale, turned my restockers back on, and opened the store. And if you see right there, as I ordered more of the brown sugar, I ended up actually ordering 10 at once. And I hear you asking, why the hell would you order 10 of one item? Are you stupid? Well, if you guys remember before, I explained the Steam overlay bug, where if you open the Steam overlay when you have the scanner in your hand, it adds 5 to your cart at once instead of the one that it's supposed to. Well, here I actually get hit with both the Steam overlay bug as well as my mouse double click issue, as I would have been just fine ordering 5 because it's whatever, it's just 5, but 10, that's $500 gone in a matter of seconds, and I am not okay with that because I still have to order a bunch of other things throughout the day, and now it kind of ruins me trying to get as much growth as I can before the 100 days, as now I have to really pay attention to my funds, as that was a massive loss for me. But nevertheless, I tried getting rid of the bug in the way that I did before, but for whatever reason it just didn't want to work. And when I realized that wasn't getting anywhere and it was getting late, I just said fuck it and started restocking because I couldn't be ass fixing that. But after the absolute horror show, it ended up going back to normal and I started ordering things normally. But by then it was already 7 and it was almost time for lockup, so I just restocked everything I could and boosted up my restockers so they could deal with the absolute mess outside the store, because I was not about to deal with that right now. But after I cooled off for a bit, I just let the last set of customers buy what they needed and close the store for the day. And looking back, it wasn't even that bad, as I still ended up getting my balance back to the near 3,000, so I was still able to afford whatever I needed. Days 94 to 97 were all pretty much the same, as they were not as eventful as the previous day, as the usual ended up happening since I couldn't really afford to purchase any upgrades, so the most I did was add more tiles to the floor and rearrange some of the counters to make them even. Other than that, it was pretty boring. But now we reach day 98, and since the previous days were complete tossaways, I decided let's just throw caution to the wind and spend as much money as we can, as right away I went over to the computer with the intention of buying the next product license for the store. That's singular, by the way. I meant to buy 1 license, but I guess God himself wanted me to get both, because of course in that one moment my mouse double clicked and I ended up purchasing 2, which if you can tell put my balance back in the 100s, which at this point I couldn't afford, as with unlocking these new items I'm kind of forced to put them in my store or else I'll lose sales and have unsatisfied customers. So as I went around restocking the shelves and opened up the store for business, I watched customer after customer complain about how they weren't able to find the item that they needed simply because I couldn't afford it. And as I sat there watching sales fly by, I thought, what the hell, this is all gonna end in a couple more days, so why not do the unthinkable? As I went straight to the computer and took the one thing I swore I wasn't gonna take, and that was a loan from the bank. As throughout this entire journey I refused to take any loans from the bank, as I wanted to do this on my own terms and didn't want to owe anybody anything, and honestly it just felt like cheating. And at this point, because of the little mishap with the license, I was pretty much forced into doing this, so I went to the bank tab on my computer and took all 3, I meant the medium and the professional loan, because for whatever reason my mouse didn't want me taking any baby ass loan for $750, so I double clicked and I didn't realize, so I got the other 2 and got straight to spending, which bought me both a freezer and a double fridge, which I ended up putting behind the counters because that was literally the only place left I had to put it. And after I got those in place, I pretty much just ordered everything that I needed to restock, as well as the new items that I just unlocked. And I gotta say, these are probably the most expensive items that I've seen so far in these item sets, as pretty much all the items go for $10 to $20 each, with the most of the more expensive items being the seafood products. So I didn't actually get these up until the very end of the day, so I couldn't see how much they could have made me in total if I had them at the start. But once everyone got done shopping, I closed up the shop and went straight into day 99. And funnily enough, as one of the last days in this challenge, this day wasn't really anything special, especially being one of the final days in this challenge, as pretty much any upgrade that I could get was out of my reach, as they all went for way more than I could afford. So I pretty much just had a normal day and did all the usual things without making any further investments, and we end the day off with a profit of nearly $500, bringing us to day 100, the final day in the 100-day Supermarket Simulator challenge. challenge. And this day was bittersweet because this was a very interesting journey we took all together. From the very beginning where I had to do everything on my own, to hiring my first employee, to now at the end of our journey where the store pretty much runs on its own. And as I said at the beginning, this will all end on the 100th day. And if I'm gonna be honest, nothing much was left to be done, as I would at least need another week or so to unlock another section of the store, or even the storage. But I wanted my goal for today to hire a 4th restocker, as I was already pretty close to getting the racks necessary to hire him, and I had the funds to do it. So the first thing I did was purchase 7 small racks, and as soon as they came in, I went straight to place them all down to hire the last restocker. But of course, there had to be an issue, because it wouldn't be Supermarket Simulator without issues, am I right? As when I went to place the final rack in the storage area, it wouldn't fit. And in order to actually hire the restocker, I needed the rack to actually be placed down, as I couldn't just buy it and hire him. And literally for the next 10 minutes, I tried my hardest to rearrange these things so I could place the final rack. Because if the last thing I did in this game was give someone a job and honestly waste more money, I was gonna do it. And after 10 minutes of fumbling around, I couldn't do it. I couldn't place the final rack and hire the final restocker on the final day of this challenge, which honestly sucked, because I really wanted to at least end this challenge off on my own terms, but I guess it wasn't in the cards for me. So I opened up the store for the final time and watched as customers came in and went out buying whatever they needed from my shop, with me not moving a single muscle. The most I did was finish off the floor, so at least that was complete, but I just wanted to watch as my store was in action, as I never really got that chance since I was so busy just running around doing other things. I guess I just wanted to sit back and watch something we built from the ground up together work all on its own and feel proud as something we created was successful. And with the final customer being checked out, I closed all the registers and gave my employees a final goodbye and ended the day for the final time by glancing over the supermarket that we truly made a success.